Most reviewers are going to pit the iPad Air against the iPad Pro. However, I think this is the wrong comparison to make, because while it's tempting to pit the Pro against the Air due to their similar form factors and options, the pricing on the Pro model makes it extremely out of reach for most customers. That's why I think the better question is to ask, should you buy an iPad Air or this, Apple's brand new iPad, which finally receives an update after 3 years, making it one of the best valued iPads that they have ever released that can go toe-to-toe against the iPad Air with a similar design at half the price. However, don't be fooled, because there are some really important differences between the iPad and the iPad Air that you need to know about. And I gotta stop dropping these things. Now listen, I don't like to make videos about products that I haven't used yet, but when we look at both the iPad Air and the regular iPad, these are both using very similar parts to their last generation, and even the new parts that were updated have already been in products before. So I think with my experience, I can make some fair assumptions on what the user experience is going to be like, especially considering that you can order these products right now and they deliver on March 12th. All right, the first thing I want to cover is the design, especially because Apple is a little deceptive in their marketing here when it comes to the display sizes. Because if you look at Apple's website, you might think that the iPad got a display size upgrade to 11 inches, because they used to market the regular iPad as 10.9 inches. So wow, the body's changed, you got a bigger display, right? Well, no, they actually just rounded up, because the same thing happened when they updated the M2 iPad Air, and they took the 10.9-inch display on that and then said that was 11 inches. Now, obviously on the M3 Air, that's exactly the same. It still says 11 inches, but they've just updated that marketing from the old iPad to now fit that. So this now says it has 11 inches, even though both of these displays are still technically 10.9 inches. I know, it's a weird one. Don't be fooled by it. There is no display size upgrade on this regular iPad, and both iPads have the same exact display sizes on the smaller models. Now, despite these screen sizes being the same, there's still some notable differences between the dimensions of these iPads and the screen quality themselves. Now, even though the iPad Air just got a spec bump upgrade this year, there is a slight change to the weight. It's actually now 2 grams lighter than the previous model. I guess the M3 chip weighs less than the M2 chip? Now, yes, this really doesn't change anything. The weight difference is negligible, but the regular iPad does weigh a little bit more at 477 grams versus 460 grams. And the more noticeable thing is that the regular iPad is thicker. It's 7 millimeters versus 6.1 millimeters on the iPad Air. Now, that might not sound like a big deal, but I will say that I do notice the extra thickness on the regular iPad. It just feels a tad bit more chunky and more hollow than the Air because of all that extra space. However, I would wager that this thicker design is probably a little bit more durable, but the Air does feel more premium than this regular iPad. Now, one design difference where the regular iPad wins out is with its exclusive color options with a more vibrant blue, pink, and yellow. The iPad Air does get colors, but they're really muted, so you get like a muted blue and a muted purple. Now, the iPad Air does have like a space gray option, and there is silver on both models, but just in terms of like the color options, I would rather have the iPads. They look a lot better. Yes, we already covered that both displays are the same size and both are LCD displays, but these are not the same quality displays. The iPad Air has a lot of benefits going for it. First of all, it has a P3 wide color display, letting it show more colors for a more accurate picture, and it has an anti-reflective coating which helps eliminate glares. The display is also directly laminated against the glass, further reducing reflections and any air gaps. Despite that, there are still a lot of similarities with the design. Both iPads have the same Touch ID sensor in the power button. Both the Air and the regular iPad appear to have the same cameras with the same exact specs. They both even have the same speakers and microphones. Still, there's some more hidden benefits to the Air. First of all, the Air gets Wi-Fi 6E, while the regular iPad just gets Wi-Fi 6. The regular iPad also does not support the Apple Pencil 2 or Apple Pencil Pro. You need to buy the version that charges over USB-C. Now, one really big difference this year is the keyboard selection, because Apple has decided to redesign the iPad Air's Magic Keyboard. This now has a lighter and slimmer design design, a full keyboard with a function key row, and a bigger glass trackpad than the previous M2 iPad Air Magic Keyboard. The iPad does not get an update with its keyboard and still uses the exclusive Magic Keyboard Folio it shipped with the last time. Now, while there are some drawbacks to this keyboard, it actually has a lot of the same benefits of the new keyboard that just launched with the M3 Air. Despite being an older keyboard, it has a full row of function keys on the top, which the iPad Air literally just got. Another big difference is how the keyboard works. The iPad's keyboard doesn't use the floating cantilever design of the iPad Airs and instead uses a kickstand. However, that also comes with its own benefits, including the ability to keep the back of the case attached even after detaching the keyboard, allowing for extra protection on the back of the iPad when you're using it in tablet mode, and you're still able to prop up the kickstand with the iPad without attaching it to the bigger, bulkier keyboard, which is great for placing the iPad down when you want to watch a video. Now, the iPad Air keyboard is $269, while the iPad keyboard is $250. They're priced very similarly, and both are additional purchases on top of this iPad. They don't come with it. Now, whether or not you should buy one is up to you. I feel like if you're doing any sort of writing with an iPad, or if you want a more laptop-like experience, they are definitely worth it. But again, if you're just using it in tablet mode, don't bother buying it. One more thing to note here is that the iPad Air's keyboard does have a USB-C port on it that can charge the iPad without using the port that is on the iPad, so it does free it up for another connection. And that is a general weakness of the iPad. It only has one USB-C port, and it's a slower one. It maxes out at just USB 2.0 speeds of 48 megabits per second, while the iPad Air gets USB 3.1 speeds at 10 gigabits per second. So if you want to attach any external storage or you require more data throughput for accessories, the iPad Air is the clear winner here. Now, by far the biggest differences between these iPads is going to be the chip. The iPad Air ships with an M3 chip, while the regular iPad has an A16 chip. Now, on paper, there is a theoretically drastic difference in performance between these two iPads. However, that also may not matter depending on how you use these devices, because the A16 chip, it is an extremely capable chip. So if you're only using your iPad for browsing the web, watching videos, social media, playing casual games, emailing, word processing, taking notes, the performance on these iPads is going to feel very, very similar. You might not even notice that this one has a better M3 chip in it. However, that doesn't mean there aren't areas where users won't benefit from the additional power that an iPad Air offers, and that might even mean that some apps run on the iPad Air and they don't run on the regular iPad. For example, if you edit video and you use Final Cut Pro, that's one of Apple's video editing softwares, well, it will run on this M3 iPad Air, but it won't run on the A16 chip on the regular iPad. Also, higher demanding AAA level games like Resident Evil 4 Remake or Death Stranding will run on the iPad Air, but they will not run on the regular iPad. So if you edit video, play games, draw, edit photos, or just use more demanding apps in a more professional setting, you will benefit from the performance gains on that M3 chip and the additional 4 gigabytes of memory on this iPad Air. It also means that the iPad Air gets some other benefits besides performance, and that includes the ability to easily connect to an external monitor, access Apple Stage Manager mode, which allows you to use windowed applications on the iPad, and the M3 chip gains access to Apple Intelligence, where the regular iPad does not. Now, if both these devices were around the same price, it would be an easy decision. I would tell you to skip the iPad and just get an iPad Air. But here's the thing, the value proposition, come back here, for the regular iPad this year actually got a huge boost because it now starts at the same 128 gigabytes of storage as the iPad Air at almost half the price. For just $350, the regular iPad is an insane value, and it gives you 90% of the iPad Air experience at a much cheaper price point. Yes, it doesn't have Apple Intelligence, but in Apple Intelligence's current state, I don't really think that matters to most users, at least right now. I'm not saying that in, like 2 to 3 years of updates down the road, that could be an issue, depending on how Apple updates its software, but I don't deal in what ifs, I deal in the present and what is now, and right now, there's not enough exclusive Apple Intelligence features to really make it a dedicated selling point. I think if it was up to most basic users, they would rather just save around $300 and go for the iPad. But despite this being a great value, it still may not be the best choice for you, because if you want an iPad that you're going to treat more like a laptop replacement and you plan to use it for either more demanding workloads or play higher end games or utilize some of the exclusive features on the M3 chip, that is when you should step up to the iPad Air. It's especially a great iPad for anyone who needs it for work or school, and it is worth the increased price tag for those who plan to do a little bit more with their iPad. I especially recommend it to artists who want to use the Apple Pencil Pro, which offers a better drawing experience with its hover features, and its magnetic charging is so much more convenient than the USB-C charging on the regular iPad. And hey, the iPad Air also has 2 display sizes, so even though this is more money, this is $799 for the 13-inch version, you do get a nice big display. And again, if you're using it for pro tasks, that may be worth it for you. So you have a little bit more options here on the iPad Air. It's a little bit more capable, and it is worth it over the iPad if you need those features. All right, I really hope this video helped you out in deciding between Apple's new iPad and the M3 iPad Airs, and let me know which one do you plan on purchasing. If you want to support the channel, don't forget to check out my affiliate links in the description below. It helps me out, if you buy an iPad through there. And hey, if you want to help out even more, drop a like, subscribe, and we'll be talking more about these iPads when we actually get them in. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all very soon.